Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So let's do a 2024 roundup, especially of Christian fiction books. So far, I'm filming this a few weeks before Christmas, so I'm sure I will definitely have more than this. I've read about 50 so far. Probably 50% of them have definitely been starting out with Miss Rosanna White. I know I mentioned Rosanna White in the last video of mine, my Christian fiction books, but I mean, I have to. If 50% of the books I read were hers, I kind of have to talk about them. I think what's amazing, I'm not going to point out one particular series. Pretty much every series of hers has like 3 different books in them, although I would highly recommend starting with The Lost Heiress. But you kind of have to dig into all of the series because they all weave into each other, which I find to be absolutely amazing. It feels like you're diving into this world. You do end up crossing all of these different characters. So we've got, this one is the Dukes and Duchesses, Shadows Over England series. And that is actually some thieves in London, but these characters do find themselves in it. Then you've got the Codebreakers series, which again kind of leads on from the Shadows Over England series, but it all culminates to Yesterday's Tides, where everybody from like all of the different series, there's a mention of each of the series in Yesterday's Tides, which is amazing. It's a dual split narrative, a time split narrative. You kind of have to read all of the books because you just immerse yourself into this world. And also the Imposters, her newest one, the Imposters series, is amazing as well because it's about this brother and this sister whose dad ended up running all of their money to the ground, so all they're left with is really the estate. They end up creating this private investigator firm called the Imposters, where they are in society and nobody knows that they are the ones who are the private investigators. So they end up finding out so much, and it's just really, really amazing. Highly recommend that one. What I love about Rosanna is that she really weaves in hard, not easy topics, and yet she doesn't shy away from the hardships that we go through in this world, but she always brings God's light into them, which is absolutely amazing because it just shows that the darkness is never greater than the light, that Jesus is always greater than the dark things of the world. I'm almost envious of you because you get to read it for the first time. Isn't there such a magic to reading something for the first time? And when after you've read it, you absolutely love it, you're like, I wish I could get that sensation all over again. Surprisingly, the rest of them are actually on my Kindle. I wish there's definitely some that I'm going to get physical copies for. Next, we've got the Back in Time series by Stephenia McGee. This is a fantasy one. It's a time travel one, which is amazing. I actually started on book number 4. They're all standalone, which is fine because it was a Christmas one. So I started off with that one. What kind of sneeze was that? So I don't know. That was such a weird sneeze I just did there. Anyways. Yeah, that was a more normal sneeze. Then I jumped to number 2, and then now I'm going on to number 3. I was just gonna keep it at Christmas for the rest of the year, but I fell in love with this series so much. It's basically about this inn that when they turn up to stay at, they end up getting thrown back in time somewhere. Some of them are there permanently, others are just there for a little period of time where they find answers to some of the things that they really wanted answers to. So my personal favorite so far is Falling for the 50s, where Maddie kind of wants to understand what her grandparents had, the love that they shared, because she keeps finding absolute jerks or duds, and she wants to have the kind of love that they have, and she wants to understand. And so she ends up getting sent back to that time, and she ends up meeting her young grandmother. This is a whole kind of like Back to the Future thing, and it's amazing. But then we've also got Nate, who is an instructor of some sort. Anyways, he's in the Air Forces, and he feels like he is their help stop and save a mission from going wrong that he knew had gone wrong. It all weaves into each other, and there's also romance, of course. So I highly recommend this series. It is so much fun. Next, we've got Across the Ages, of which you already know. I mentioned the Timeless series. I mean, I kind of feel like in the Christian fiction world, this series is just going bonkers because it's amazing. I fell in love with the first one, and I'm gonna have to do it. I'm considering doing it for my book club because it's just so good, and I feel like everybody needs to read it. So this is number 4. This has come out this year, and this is definitely probably my second favorite one. It's like neck and neck with the first one for me. I mean, they're all so good, but this one particularly is amazing because so she doesn't understand the gift that she's been given. She's a time crosser, so she'll wake up one day in one era, and the next day she'll wake up in the other era. So for her, it's in the 1727 and 1927, I believe. She doesn't lose any time in between them. Her consciousness just ends up going to the next era and goes back and forth, and she loses no time. And it's really fascinating how Gabrielle really weaves in faith into this, and how God has the best path for them. So she doesn't understand her gifts, so she wants to find her mom to see if she's been cursed. And it's really fascinating kind of following this Timeless series now with somebody who doesn't understand the gift, because in the others they all knew it had been passed down, whereas in this one she doesn't, and it's amazing. We've got a Billy Sunday-esque preacher in the 1900s, and then in the 1700s she has to dress up as a pirate, a cabin boy on a pirate ship, and nobody knows that she's a woman. And we've got a hero, of course. I just love romance, so it's absolutely amazing. I highly, highly, highly recommend this series if you haven't already started, but if you have and you haven't yet read Across the Ages, you have to read it. Okay, next we've got the Walker Family series by Melissa Tagg. This is definitely so heartwarming, very Hallmark style. So it's contemporary Christian fiction. So the Walker family, they are 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and seeing their love stories kind of play out are amazing. They are all from Maple Valley, and some of them are still there, others are kind of traveling the world, and there's also a love story obviously for each one of them. And I love how she doesn't shy away from things that are hard that people experience, but yet how God can shine his light into hard situations. It's just so beautiful. I love the redemption story, and it definitely makes you want to go to Maple Valley and possibly live there, because it's amazing. Maple Valley sounds like such a quirky spot, and it just makes you want to visit. It's amazing. Highly recommend the Walker Family series. And I also know that there's another one that a spin-off series sort of about it too. I would say that probably the one about Beckett and Kit is definitely my favorite one of them, which I believe is book number 3. So I mean, they're all so great, but my personal favorite was that one because it reminded me a little bit of my husband and I. The Muir Harbor series, highly recommend that one as well, but because I didn't read it in 2024, I didn't want to actually include it in, but I absolutely love that one too. That one's set in Maine. And I just love how Melissa she creates this small town charm, and it just feels like you want to be a part of that community. Next, we've got Authentically Izzy. I loved this book. It was so fun because I actually haven't read anything similar to this by Pepper Basham. Pepper is just so fun. I had myself, especially in the first half of the book, it was epistolary. It was epistolary. And they end up meeting online and trading emails back and forth, and it's actually just so fun. I found myself cackling, especially for the first half. Set in Skymar, which kind of feels like it's a little bit of a hybrid of England and Scotland and all of these. It's a little island off of the coast of the UK, but it feels like she's kind of married the two together. It sounds even better. I'm like, I want to go. This sounds unreal. It sounds incredible. I'm looking forward to digging into the next part of the series. Okay, finally, we've got the Oceans of Time series by Lisa Bergren. If you haven't read the first Rivers of Time series, I would highly recommend starting with that. Don't go immediately into this one because then you're not really going to understand who some of the supporting characters are. So Rivers of Time basically Gabriella and Leah, they are two sisters, and their parents are archaeologists, and they are in this Etruscan tomb, and they see two handprints, and they both put their hands on the handprints, and they get thrown back in time. So then we are now in Oceans of Time, which these are their cousins who go back in time to kind of find out what happened to them. And it was kind of this thing where nobody really knew what happened to them. They disappeared, the whole family off the face of the earth, and they were like, what happened? They were in these tombs. So the Bettarini, I hope I said that right, Italian, Bettarini family, the cousins, the two cousins go. One of them is very much like, I want to go and find out, let's go on an adventure, but he doesn't realize it's going to be time travel. Well, I think he has an inkling. I can't remember now because I read this at the beginning of the year, but I just dove straight in to Estuary and then onto Riptide as well. But the problem, my only problem with this, which I would highly recommend, wait until March to read this one. I think it's March, or is it April? March or April, maybe it's April. Highly recommend waiting until then, because the problem is that Lisa Bergren, the way that she does these books is that she literally leaves them on a cliffhanger, and then you're like, I need to know what happens next. So I've just been left hanging for the past 6 months, and I still can't get it out of my mind. I know a little bit of what now the next one is going to entail, but because I've read the blurb on it, but I'm like, I need to know now, please. And so it's absolutely so exciting. Maybe wait until March or April to just binge all three. But if you like a bit of fantasy, obviously you can see I really like time travel. I just absolutely love the whole time travel thing. I think it's just so fascinating going back into history and kind of seeing what happened. Let me know if there's any that you know of that are amazing. But that's kind of my wrap up for the year. I read so many books, but these are the ones that kind of stood out to me. You know, what I love is that I feel like a lot of these books end up making a difference in how I see different people, who go through different walks of life, and it really encourages me to broaden how I see. I think sometimes we can be so black and white about people. We can think, oh, they think like this, and in reality we don't know what's going on deeper. And that's what I love about books, because it really shows you what's going on deeper in a person's heart. It just kind of gives you their perspective on life. So that's something that I've just learned so much from. It helps me to be introspective, because I like to understand how I'm feeling and sometimes I get really encouraged by these fiction books, because it shows me, hey Nat, this is how you're feeling. It makes sense. You see a character experiencing that, but this is how they dealt with it. It can be very relatable, and it helps you to understand sometimes why you feel the way that you feel. So I just really, really love reading fiction books for that reason. These are my favorite books of the year. I would love to know your favorite books of the year and what I should be reading in this new year. Are there any authors that you absolutely love? So, all right, catch you guys soon.